Hey, what's up, guys? It's me, Feño from the fight side. I'm here to do a Q&A. This was supposed to be like a end of the year Q&A, but it took me a while to record this. But hey, here we are. Two things. I'm going to butcher your Twitter handles and your names probably, so I'm sorry for that. And I did no prep for this, so this is late not because I was like doing research to answer your questions or anything, just because I'm a piece of shit. So whatever, I'm going to try to answer most of the questions, if not all of them. We'll see how this goes. But yeah, Q&A. The idea was to ask questions related to like what happened in MMA during the year and what to expect for next year. But obviously not all questions pertain to that, I think. So yeah, let's just go through it, okay? I'm not sponsored by Monster Energy drink, by the way. So yeah, my good friend Sandro, the cool thought himself, asked me sumo or conventional. I'm a conventional deadlifter. I'm not very kind of sumo. My best friends lifts sumo, so I respect it. I respect that a lot. This doesn't has anything to do with MMA, but yeah, conventional all the way. Next one is Stephen Ray at Stephen Ray MMA. He's asking for overall thoughts on Kamaru Usman striking. I think Usman has a lot of good stuff going on with his game, his current game. I like the jabbing from both stances. I like that he has some measures to stay in the pocket. He has been developing a very good left hook too. I still think he doesn't react very well. And when he goes in defense, he's there for the taking. I think people are not very keen on attacking Kamaru when he's covering up because of the wrestling threat. And I think Kamaru is aware of that and uses that to his advantage. I think his striking is not as good as it might seem. I mean, it has been exposed by Masvidal, by Burns, and by Covington at different stages. But I think what's great about Usman is that he's tough, he's adaptable, and the confidence is like a very great boost to his overall striking game. And he knows how to use the threat of the wrestling. Even if he's not wrestling, he knows it is there in the back of the mind of his opponents. So yeah, I rate Usman striking like very serviceable, very useful, and he's a great athlete, so he can exploit a lot of tendencies in MMA. I think he's good overall. I wouldn't rate him anywhere near the top of the best strikers in MMA, but he's good enough to implement a very good game. His second question is how far can Gamrot go? This one is interesting. I think Gamrot is very good prospect. The wrestling and the pace that he can keep up it's going to be a trouble for a lot of the fighters at the top of 155. The striking is coming along decently, but he also has has moments of vulnerabilities. So it will be interesting to see how he can develop these like spaces between the striking and the grappling, and how much better can he get in the striking department, especially when he gets to a point that he faces opponents that he cannot just overwhelm with wrestling. But I think expecting him to be top 5, it's reasonable. Champion material, I'm not sure yet, but I wouldn't discard that at all. The next question is thoughts of the Yair Rodriguez that we saw against Holloway. I think that was the best Jair we've seen. I think he's finally understanding how to use athleticism in his favor instead of relying in it. He's a very powerful and fast athlete, and he's fighting in a way that allows him to take advantage of that. There's a lot of vulnerabilities still in his game, but he has the cardio, the toughness to go pretty far. I think this is probably near his ceiling. I think we can expect like subtle technical improvements in this year and the next, but I wouldn't expect anything more like revolutionary. Still, the way he fought Holloway, and even though he lost that pretty clearly, I think it shows that he can be very competitive with the top of the division. So it would be interesting to see how he matches up with other fighters like, for example, Lee or Emmett. So yeah, I mean, not a big fan of Jair, but he's at this point he's a good fighter. I don't think we can deny that. If the athleticism starts to leave him, it could be trouble though, because he still relies a lot on it, even though he's fighting smarter nowadays. But yeah, that's my thoughts. He also asks, in your opinion, what was the most skillful fight of the year? And to me, it was Ian versus Corey. It was a great fight. I think the fight gets overlooked because people saw it as being like a showcase for Ian, but I did not see it that way. I was watching that fight live with Sriram. We made live alternate commentary, and we were very impressed with Sanhagen. I think we both scored the first 2 rounds in his favor, and then Yang like took control of the fight, but it was still very competitive, very very hard fought, and crazy adjustments going both ways, especially by Piotr. So yeah, I mean, that was like one of the best fights for me. I'm actually surprised people didn't see it that way, but I thought it was like the most skillful and one of the best fights of the year for sure. Yeah, my co-host of the full previews, the good Dan Albert at Typewriting DA, asked me several questions. He says, "Am I your best co-host? If not, criticism of my performance." Dan, I love you. You're great. I'm not going to answer that. What is the real funniest moment of the year? Damn. I don't know, man. I don't know. Yeah, it was Juliana Pena beating Amanda like 100%. It was that. Which of us picked Vera by NFT Transformative over Edgar? Nobody. I think we both picked Edgar. I think you went with Cheeto at the end, and I went with Edgar. So I'm not sure you predicted that he was going to turn Edgar in a bored monkey, but yeah. Am I still mad about? I don't know. So probably not. Not a question, but Dustin knocked Conor out. He knocked him out. It was great. It was the best. And he says also, you're a good friend. Thank you, Dan. You're the best. Okay, we have Ronan next. Assured Fob at Assured Fob. He says, you're hot. Does this change the way you analyze fights? Does it help you resonate with attractive fighters? My answer is yes. The boss, Ed Gallo at Edward Gallo MMA, asks me, which fighters have you changed your opinion about the most this year? And yeah, I mean, it's interesting. I mean, I think it depends like about performance or about like in and out of the cage. I gotta admit it was getting hard to like Leon Edwards this year after getting robbed by Nate and then refusing to fight and thinking he's entitled to fight for the title. I mean, I think he still deserves it, but we know the UFC is like a shithole and they're not going to give him the fight, so yeah, I don't know about that. Corey Sanhagen impressed me a lot in the young fight. I think he overcame the ceiling that I thought he had. It would be very interesting to see him in a rematch against Algio. To be honest, I don't think Sterling it's going to grapple him as easily as he did the first time. Unlike some of my partners of the fight side, I think Moreno looked great on the Figueiredo 2 fight. Obviously, Figueiredo didn't look good, but that doesn't mean Moreno didn't look great himself. Very interesting to see how he fares with the rest of the top of the division. Actually picking him to beat Fig the third time. Yeah, I mean, I don't know. I would have to think better about this, and I'm not well prepared to this question. I'm sorry. Kiran Singh asks me, will lightweight and welterweight, mostly lightweight, finally get the rise of younger fighters that they need? I think lightweight is already seeing some of that. I mean, at least it's getting new faces. We have like Gamrot that we talk about. There's Gillespie's not young, but he's like a new face in the division too. Let me check the rankings. Oh my god. Oh yeah, there's Riddell, there's Visiv. I mean, a lot of these guys are like already like over 30 years old, but I think we're already seeing new faces come up. Welterweight's more complicated, not a lot of prospects. I mean, obviously there's Shimaev there, but still I have a lot of questions. I think we'll have more questions surrounding him down the line. Sean Brady didn't look very impressive against Chiesa, but he's also promising. I'm not sure how old he's in. But yeah, I mean, welterweight's looking a bit more dire. But yeah, I'm confident that lightweight will remain a very good division and won't transform in like all men land like welterweight did. Taylor on Sport, my colleague at the fight side and boxing expert, asked me what's Jan Swartz's matchup in and around 135. I think rematch with Sanhagen would be interesting. I would favor Jan, but it's an interesting fight. I'm one of the few people that is hype about the Aljo fight. I mean, I think it's not likely, but there's a chance that Aljamain can make good adjustments and learn from the first fight, even though he was starting to lose pretty badly before the fall. If he moved, Aljo would be interesting, but I don't think he has the physicality right now to compete with Jan. But I think he showed in the first fight that he's a very problematic matchup. If Aljo was like a bit younger, I would probably pick him to beat him. And I think Volkanovski is a lot of trouble for Jan, not just because he's like bigger and stronger, but it's the kind of guy that would come well prepared to deal with Jan's game. They also train together a lot, so who knows how that goes. But yeah, I mean, I think Jan and Volk are number 1 and number 2 pound for pound right now, and I don't think it's very disputable. Joanna Dangerfield asked me who has the higher ceiling, Rakhmonov or Shimaev. I'm not very well prepared to this one. I haven't done a lot of tape study on either guy on their fights before the UFC. I've seen a little bit of Shimaev. Rakhmonov looks promising too, but I think the Rakhmonov for me at this stage looks better prepared to deal with adversity. I'm not sure how Shimaev will react once he doesn't just like mop the floor with a guy. Rakhmonov still has like some concerning stuff to me. The defense in open space, he doesn't move his head very well, and he looked very reactive on defense against Cowboy Oliveira. He's a good fighter. I think he has a high ceiling, but I'm not sure how much better he will get. And I'm not sure either how he fares against like the really good fighters of the division with his current skill set. The same can be said about Shimaev, but at least he has been more dominant in his victories. He has like the auto win condition of getting the takedown on beating Gas, and he also showed against Mirishar that he has the power in his hands. Very interesting prospect. I really want Shimaev. I really want to see Shimaev tested. I think Belal Mohamed or Gilbert Burns would be like actual good fight that would give us a grasp of how good actually he is. But yeah, I think both guys are like promising in the 170 division. Future champions, I'm not sure. Kind of hard to tell at this moment. We haven't seen them tested at that level yet, so it would be like reaching conclusions too fast. If I had to pick between the two, I think I gotta go with Chimaev, but I like Ragmanov's style more. Um, Al Swearengen, I guess, asked me best and worst game plans of the year. Um, Damn. I think the thing about game plans is that a good game plans takes into consideration the limitations of your fighter. I think in that aspect, like Juliana Peña's performance against Amanda is not like a great performance, like skillfully, but I think it was a very good game plan to make her a wrestler, to make him hesitant about the wrestling, and then they were well equipped to deal with the striking too, with the dipping jab and countering over the top. So I think that's actually a very good game plan. Corey, even though he lost against Yan, and I'm going back to that fight all the time, but I think that was also a very good game plan. Yan was like more or less doing what he always does, so I wouldn't say that's like a great game plan. I mean, he doesn't need a great game plan at this stage. He made himself, and being so complete as of a fighter, it's already like good enough. What else we saw? I think Glover looked very good winning the title too. I mean, from a game plan standpoint, he seemed very aware about the limitations of Blachowicz. Blachowicz himself, very smart performance versus Easy. So yeah, that those come to mind, but I'm not sure. Worst game plans. Who's Kevin Lee this year? Yeah, that was Ost. Yeah, I think that game plan was disappointing because he went in there and not really a good connection between striking and grappling, and then he tried for like very high effort takedowns against a guy that was way bigger than him. Then the striking also like was playing just straight into Rodriguez's hands, and Lee still made it competitive. That just tells you how the potential that this guy has, and I think it's going down the drain at TriStar. He's cut by the UFC now, and he apparently is training with Henry Hooft. I think it might be a bit too late, right? A bit too late in his career, sadly, but we'll see what the future holds. The Shell Vampire Hunter impersonator asked me, do you find it easier to talk about fighting fighters on a podcast or to write about them? Well, first of all, English is not my first language, as all of you know. So writing can be challenging. I don't write articles for the fight side for the same reason. I think they will need too much editing, and I don't want to put that kind of work into the hands of my colleagues. When it comes to video editing, I make mistakes here and there, but I think the ideas are very well explained because of the visual material. Podcasting is like different because you don't. I mean, even if you prepare, if you're not getting like. I mean, you gotta go from your head most of the time, so a lot of time you forget stuff or you miss some points that you wanted to make, and that's the challenging part. And I hope I'm getting better at it because I'm doing it pretty consistently right now. So yeah, but both presents challenges, but I think the podcast is like more easygoing and it's a bit easier. I mean, you don't have to organize your ideas to the same extent. So if you guys wanna do like analysis, I would suggest like start by talking, even if it's texting or like speaking like one on one about fights and analysis. It's a very good way to get your gears going and understanding stuff. Sometimes like doing an article or like reading analysis can be more challenging, but at the same time, if you don't worry about like the publishing part or the audience part, it's a very good exercise to see how your brain works and what can you take from analyzing footage. Kenta doesn't. I'm sorry. Wishlist for matchmaking in any division 2022. Okay, let's see. Flyweight, I like to see. I like to see Pantoja fighting for the title. I think at this stage, like probably Moreno beats him because just like Pantoja is starting to tire in fights, and that's not a good recipe for Moreno. Moreno has also improved. I think Pantoja is still an interesting matchup there, but I'm not sure if he would win. I want to see Alex Perez fight, like, just in general. Matthews, Nicolau is also very interesting in that division. Bantamweight, I like to see Aldo versus Cruz like finally happen. TJ versus Yan, especially if like we can see that TJ is 100%. That's a great fucking fight. I like to see. Why not like Janius fighting like O'Malley or Ricky Simon fighting him too. So yeah, that would be it. Featherweight, I'm one of the guys that actually want to see Holloway versus Volk because I think they are 1-1 at this point. What else I'd like to see? I don't know, man. I like to see those guys fight because they are good. I'm kind of happy that Ibloyev versus what's his name? Topuria. Yeah. I mean, at one hand, like Topuria versus Ibloyev is not good matchmaking, but because they are both like young prospects. But on the other hand, it was like a very good fight, one of the best that you can make from guys that are not like currently ranked. I don't think they're ranked. Lightweight is Gagey versus Oliveira. It's the one that I want to see. I mean, that's probably happening unless there's like some cancellation or anything. Want to see more Sarukian, more Gamrot. Let's see how they do. Riddell and Fiziev in striking battles always compelling too. Yeah, Whitaker against Easy. I would like to see Usman versus Leon, even though I don't think it's happening. And yeah, pretty much that. Sir Domin asks me, did you have fun watching mixed martial arts this year? And the short answer is yes. Yes, there was a lot of good stuff. There were some dreadful cards, but I'm not complaining. I mean, I enjoy watching MMA fights. I was watching like almost every UFC fight before this was like my job. So yeah, it was a good fight, and Dustin fought Conor Rapp, so even though Dustin lost to Oliveira, this was a great year just because Dustin got to sleep McGregor. Giant Squirrel MMA asks me, do you think AAA, Virtanian and Chabili do well in the UFC lightweight division? And do they reach the top 10? Chabili hasn't been that amazing in Bellator, and AAA's last performance wasn't that impressive either. Also, ironically, how bad is Battori? So let's take this by parts. Do I think those three guys in particular do well in the lightweight division? I think yes. Yes, I think they are very talented fighters. I think the especially AAA and Virtanian are starting to decline, so I'm not sure how high the ceiling would be for them right now. Both Virtanian and AAA haven't been looking great lately. But I think at their primes they were very interesting top 5 material. Right now not sure, but probably top 10 they're still good, they're still like very resourceful. Chabili, more dependent on the matchmaking. I think he doesn't like the higher level of athleticism that he would encounter in the UFC. But he's still a very good fighter. I mean, probably top 10 too. If they all three moved right now to the UFC, I would think maybe Chabili at this point would do better than those other two guys, despite them being better than him overall. How bad is Battori? Not that bad, I would say. I mean, I don't like him. I find his style very uninteresting, to be honest. But he's a solid fighter. He's very well schooled. I think King's MMA has done a great job with him. I don't think he has like the right mindset to be like elite at MMA and that's why he fails at making adjustments. He's very corner dependent in that sense, but he still has like a very decent like base set skill set, and he's an athletic and big guy, so I wouldn't call him bad. He's decent. Moving on, we have Shy Jazz asking, had there been any shifts in the meta of MMA that were particularly noticeable in 2021? And thoughts on the gap between men's and women's MMA, is it overstated? First with the meta, I mean, I think we've seen in the last few years like some more boxing oriented offense in MMA, and that trend continues up, and that trend was a bit disrupted by the calf kick. I think the calf kick is not a big of a deal as commentators want it to be, but it's still like something that it's available because of the current meta of MMA. If everyone was fighting from a more like kickboxing oriented stance, we wouldn't see that so often, but as it is, we see a lot of fighters fighting like very heavy on their front foot, looking to box, and that's opening up the kicks. But we also are seeing like a return of grapplers. A lot of wrestlers are exploiting some of the new holes that this like boxing oriented meta has developed. A lot of fighters were developing like getting up tactics that were very based on like tripoding and giving up your back, and we're seeing like a comeback of the back take for the same reasons, and a lot of fighters that are actually good at finishing rear naked chokes. So it's interesting, like the meta always moves in some direction, and that direction gives space for new techniques to flourish. It's interesting. I'm not sure we saw anything like very particular last year, but it's cool to see what's going to happen moving on into 2022. And thoughts about the gap between men's and women's MMA, is it overstated? I think the gap right now is pretty big, but it's not. I don't think it's very related to the gender itself. It's more related to social and monetary reasons. I see that when people have other avenues that are better paid, they are not gonna gravitate to MMA. And at the same time, fighting is not like socially very well accepted as a career, both for men and women, but especially for women. So it's going to take time to get like more deep talent pools in women's MMA. I think they are closing the gap, though. I'm very optimistic about that in the future. I think 115 is overall a better division than heavyweight and light heavyweight from the men's side. So there's that. So yeah, I mean, I think the gap for sure exists. It doesn't exist as much as for biological reasons, and so as some people tend to think. And I think it's slowly but firmly reducing. Ocelot asks me, how do you rate Topuria and Song Yadong as prospects? Topuria, I mean both very good, very good fighters. Topuria, it's pretty fresh in his career. I'm not sure how old is him. Let me check here. Topuria is only 24 years old. He's great, man. He's great. Very athletic. The grappling is very competent. He's putting together a very strong striking style that makes sense with his body type and with his grappling attacks. He's a decent wrestler too. I'm very high on Topuria. I want to see more of him. Very excited about him. A future top 5 for sure, if you ask me, but probably future champion. You never know, but yeah, I mean, I think the future is very bright for Topuria. Song Yadong has been very impressive. I think the most impressive thing about Song Yadong is that he has had already 25 fights at 24 years old, and we still are seeing like very constant improvement from fight to fight, and that's the craziest thing. I mean, of course he's young, but he's been fighting professionally since he's been like 16, I think. And I was like, okay, like he's very athletic, he has a very good skill set, but I'm not sure if he's going to keep improving after all these years. But he's still improving. He's looking better and better, and yeah, I mean, very high on him. The last win against Arce is huge, completely huge. So yeah, Yadong for sure. I think he's gonna crack the top 5 eventually too. And 135 is a crazy division, so that's not saying like that's saying a lot. Champion material, I would say no for now, but who knows if he keeps improving. He's super young. Hopefully he's not dealing with a lot of injuries, because that can derail you, especially when you're fighting so often for so long. Next question is by Lee at _Leven. He asked, do you think Arman Sarukian can make it to the top 5 of lightweight? Maybe. I think Sarukian it's still putting together his style. He has very good skill set, especially as like this kicker anti-wrestler that then can go in the offense with his own grappling. He's very interesting as a fighter, but I think he needs more time to develop, and I'm not sure if the current UFC matchmaking is going to give him the development that he needs. Maybe it's going to get him derailed if they give him the wrong fights. People seem to like it, so hopefully he gets like decent matchmaking that allows him to flourish into the complete fighter that he's probably going to become if he's allowed to. But yeah, I mean, top 5 not impossible, but we'll have to see. And finally, we have Nico, who asks, which non-UFC MMA org do you think delivered the most this year, and why? Hard to say. I think Bellator overall is like not a good product, but they deliver with very big fights, and to me they put together the biggest and best fight like outside the UFC, that was Sergio versus Horiguchi. So yeah, I'm gonna go with that with Bellator. Bellator has the potential to put together like very big stuff. The problem is that sometimes they just focus on the wrong stuff, you know, and they don't have the money to put like consistent like head to toe cards the UFC does. So you end up with like very lousy prelims very often, and sometimes even main cards when it comes to like the international cards. But they sometimes put together huge fights. I'm looking forward this 2022 for the Bellator Bantamweight Grand Prix. That's going to be great. Hopefully the fights like happen soon. You never know with the Grand Prix, it's very complicated, but yeah. That's my answer. And I think that's all of them. I answer all of your questions. If you want me to do another Q&A, like, just let me know. We can put together another one of these. Next week, me and Dan. Is it next week? Yeah. Next week, me and Dan are back with the full preview for UFC 270. So keep an eye for that. You can always reach out to me on Twitter. I'm at Feño, putting in somewhere. So yeah, hopefully you guys had fun listening to my answers to your questions. We can do this again if you want. Remember to support the fight side. Check out our Patreon if you want access to like tons of exclusive content. Check out our YouTube channels. And yeah, follow me on Twitter, whatever. I'm Feño. Have a good one, guys.